Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Joni Young if you're new here, and I'm going to be showing you step by step how to paint this pretty winter wonderland today. We're going to be working on a 12 by 16 white primed canvas with acrylic gesso and using titanium white as well as light blue violet, starting with this large round chalk brush. And I'm just taking my light blue violet and I'm going to go around and around and around in big circles. I'm covering the entire canvas except for the middle portion there where we're going to have a full moon. So I'm going to leave that white. I'm going to come in now with a little bit of white on my brush that still has a little bit of blue on it, and I'm going to start just right outside, continuously adding white and making circles to get that nice, smooth, blended, seamless look. I'm going to cut across under the moon to create a horizon line, pulling back and forth. Now I'm just going to come in with a Filbert brush. Any round brush or Filbert brush of your choice will work. Just going to smooth out around the moon a little bit again. And I'm going to add some little highlights, little lines, soft ripples maybe if this is going to be water. I wasn't sure at this point what it was going to be. And again, just defining that shape a little more. Just pulling gently side to side. Now, using my brush flat on the canvas, tapping, pushing, and gently smushing in to create some soft, puffy clouds. Still using my Filbert brush. This is a number 8, just in case you guys are wondering, but you can use any size that you want. It just depends on what size of clouds you want to create. And using only titanium white. The paint underneath is still wet that I'm working on, so it's gently blending into the white, creating softer tones. I'm going to start coming in diagonally and sweeping, creating some lines to build up some mountain ranges in the back that are going to have snow on them, and just to create that snow very simply, just pulling very lightly, barely touching the canvas with some titanium white on the tip of my brush. So the moonlight is going to be hitting the inside of the mountains and the outside will be left in shadow, and I'll be coming over with another layer of my light blue violet after. So right here I'm going to go on the other side right next to where I added the white and just lightly pull, tapping and dabbing to create little lines and mountain ridges for shadows. So you can see I'm not making it a one solid color. I'm leaving little spaces of the lighter shade of blue in there. I'm going to come in with some more shadows on the side, just with that blue again. If you don't have this specific shade, you can make it with cobalt blue and white or ultramarine blue and white. I'm going to continue adding some more clouds up top, and I just defined the moon a little bit more with a bit of that light blue around it, and by doing that it'll just make the full moon stand out even more and be extra bright. Okay, I'm going to come over with another light layer of titanium white. I'm not using any water at all on my brush for any of this, actually it's just straight paint. And because the paint underneath is still wet every time I apply another layer, I don't need any water because it's blending very smoothly. Add a little bit more white right to the center of the moon, and then soften around the outside of it, creating a smoky kind of a haze or a foggy haze. And I'm going to add a few more shadows here. And I'm going to start tapping in for a little bit of foliage and some bushes at the base of these mountains just by using white. And then I'm going to switch over to a mop brush, a larger mop brush, just to make them appear larger in the foreground so that we create some perspective, giving us the feeling of being in the foreground, looking out and enjoying that view. And by pulling and flicking, we can create reflections in the water. And I'm just really playing around with the paint and brush strokes at this point because I'm still developing and transforming what this painting is going to end up being. And it's kind of fun to do that if you're not sure what you want to paint and you're just kind of experimenting to try different things. And then you can cover them up after if you don't want it to go in that direction. So right here I'm taking my large round mop brush with the blue and just tapping in some bushes. I got this brush from Michael's years ago. I haven't been able to find it. They must have discontinued it, though I'm not sure why, because it's the best brush, the most amazing brush I've ever used. And I don't even know what it's called. There's no writing on it. I don't know what kind of hair it is. I just call it my mystery magic brush. And I'm going to use a liner brush now just to pull and drag lightly with the white to create some more peaks and snow and highlights. So this gives it a really nice crisp look to it. I want to keep the bottom, the base of the mountains, a little bit blurrier, just so that you need a balance of blurry and more in focus parts of your painting. So keep that in mind, guys. You don't want every single thing in your painting to all be super detailed. You need to have a balance of that. So that's one of the biggest mistakes I see people make all the time, especially with the backgrounds. If you're going to have a lot of detail in the foreground, you're going to need to soften the background. So that's why I like to add some sun rays or a light dry brush, white dry brush over top, creating kind of a foggy, blurry, hazy look. That really helps your eyes focus on what the focal point is in your painting. So here I'm just adding I'm going to soften this up a little bit, and I am going over top of some of these clouds. They were really pretty and it was fun creating them, but I can see all those clouds and all the peaks on them and details and highlights is competing too much with the mountains, so I want to soften and keep adding some sun rays. I'm going to add a little bit more white here for some clouds, but then I'm going to come in, pull and flick from the center, that moon, and it's supposed to be a moon, but I'm creating sun rays, so in my paintings anything goes. There's no rules. Maybe this moon has light rays beaming out of it, I don't know, or this could be a sun if you wanted it to be. You guys can choose and decide what you want yours to be. Now I've got my ultramarine blue and a fan brush. I'm going to take pretty much straight ultramarine blue. If you don't have the shade, you can use cobalt blue. You can use any blue you want, in fact, for this painting, okay? Any blue and white will look really, really pretty. And I'm going to have light little flicks in here. Just line your brush up and pull and flick gently to create an instant forest back there in the distance. And then I'm going to come in and make a larger tree. I'll be tapping to pull up for the tree trunk, tapping and pulling, and then I'm just going to start coming in with the tip of my brush, tapping lightly for those branches, and then as they get fuller down towards the bottom, or the middle and the bottom, then I'll be using the full width of the brush. And I'll tap for some shadows down at the base as well, down at the bottom of the canvas. So we have a few different shades of the blue, right? Dark to light. And then, of course, to our bright white, which makes for a very soothing kind of ambiance in a painting. This is a limited palette today. Okay, well let's add another one right on this side because I have so much fun painting trees, and I think the best way for you guys to learn is to see me paint a lot of them. So I'm going to be doing maybe 2 to 4 trees, we'll see. And this one's going to be a little bit shorter. Again, just for the top of the tree, I'm going to leave a little line to make it pointy, and then just add little branches that gradually get bigger and bigger. So we need this darker blue in order for our snow that we're going to add to really stand out and have a nice contrast. And I'm just going to layer on that snow so it looks like those trees that are just covered in snow, and it's so heavy on the branches that it's kind of just pulling the branches down and sagging. I love that wintry look. And I'm going to just pull and flick in between some of these sun rays with my blue very gently, and then I'm going to blend it out and take a little bit of that off. I'm going to start the base here for my waterfall and let that dry for a bit. Come in with a round brush. You can use a liner brush for this if you want to. Taking thick amounts of paint, as you can see on the tip of my brush, I'm just going to start tapping, light drags, and a little bit of rolling my brush, twisting and rolling it around sometimes. So I'm leaving spaces in between my branches so that we develop that layered look, and you can see the shadows underneath of all those branches, and it really gives that 3D illusion. I'm just going to keep continuing to add more and more white paint on here, and I like using titanium white because it's extra bright. Now, although this painting did start out as a moonscape, I really feel like this is more of a sunscape, I guess you could say. It looks more like daylight now. And I'm going to layer over on this side now. See how much paint I'm using. It's quite thick. And I'm using heavy bodied acrylics. And that's actually all that I use in my painting, just to let you guys know. I'm sure you know that by now though. It's easier to get the bright look and a richer looking painting using heavy bodied acrylics. If you're using thinner ones, they might look nice and bright at first, but then they will sort of fade over time. It does help to have a layer of gesso. Preparing your canvas with gesso can really help. And I've got a Filbert brush. It kind of looks like a cat's tongue brush too, but either one will work. You can definitely use a cat's tongue brush for this. And I'm going to come in with my blue again and tap in another tree. I just wanted to use a different brush this time, just to change up the types of trees that I've got, and just to show you guys, give you an example and an alternative for different brushes that you can use to create trees. Then I take my white right after without washing my brush, and I add a layer of snow. Now this time I'm using white only to show you what that would look like without doing a blue base first. So you're going to need extra white, just to let you guys know, for this to really show up. It can look really pretty as long as you have a darker background. And then adding more and more white to really layer it and make it look nice and thick in 3D. Remember to leave those little spaces in between because you need that contrast. And then there might be some little lumps of snow or rocks, snow-covered rocks along either side. And then we'll start coming in with our waterfall soon and adding a bridge. I'm going to switch over to a fan brush. This one's a little bit larger than what I originally used for my trees. And I'm going to take white on the tip. And I'm going to do some little lines, and then I'm going to pull, curve over, and drop. Adding more and more white. I'm going to play around with my waterfall a little bit, changing the height of it at times and smoothing out the bottom. Wasn't sure if I wanted the waterfall to go past the canvas or be a shorter waterfall dropping into a little pool. So I changed it right at this point to a little pool, and I like that a lot better. You can see every once in a while I'm going to add to my sun rays using whatever brush that I have at the time, just pulling and flicking, because as the paint dries it sets in and it dulls a little bit, so I need to keep adding light thin layers of that white to make it really stand out. So I'm going to do a low arch, just pulling, trying to make it one stroke so it's nice and seamless, first with white and then with blue. You can do two lines, one above the other or one below, and then little lines straight up and down for the railing, and then a third, and you'll see how this bridge kind of transforms during the painting process. It's more detailed at first, and then I start to smooth it out after, making it softer in tone. I thought it might look neat to add a layer of fresh fallen snow on the railing and part of the bridge. So I'll demonstrate here how you can do that. And light little taps and little pulls, maybe it looks like icicles. And it might help if you guys are having trouble adding a layer over top of wet paint, it might help to just dry that layer off first before adding your snow. It's completely up to you. And then my painting wouldn't be complete without a little staircase, would it? So I thought I would add a little staircase here off to the side, the bottom left, with a little railing, so white lines going off towards that bridge, and then little lines straight up and down for the fence or the railing. Using my liner brush, I'm going to take blue and go right underneath to give this more contrast and shadow. But like I said, I'm going to soften it later on, so you can skip ahead to that if you want, or I wouldn't recommend doing that though. There's so much to learn throughout this entire video. This gives you options because it does look nice both ways if you want to have more of a contrast like this, and it looks just as nice creating a softer tone, more of that light blue violet with a white later on that you'll see at the end of the video. Work a little bit more on my waterfall now, and I added a little bit of blue at the base of the tree at the bottom. Maybe there's some rocks there or just some shadow. And I'm just tapping in a little bit of white here and there. So I want to add some snow on top of the railing on either side of the staircase here. I thought that would look really cool. Making it just a little bit thicker towards the bottom as it gets closer to us. and then thinner and lighter as it gets further away towards that bridge. And I want to start adding another tree here pretty soon, but I'm just going to soften this railing up a little bit. Like I said, it's completely up to you. It's personal preference. You guys can leave it as it was before, darker, or soften it like I did. Coming in with white only. I'm going to keep layering the white till it's nice and bright to create this other snow-covered tree. And this is going to be in front. These will be in front of that little bridge. Cute little charming bridge here. And I think this looks nice because it sets that bridge kind of back there and nestles it in between the trees and this pretty little forest. Add a little bit more white to the bridge now. I still want that feeling of a little bit of snow on it. And I'm just going to take a little bit of the paint off here. I was going to create some kind of little portal, make it look a little bit more fantasy, but then I decided to change that later on, you'll see. And I wanted my waterfall to show up a bit more, so I went over with a layer of blue, my ultramarine blue, and then you can see how it stands out way better now that I added that dark blue underneath, and then came over with my fan brush and my white again, leaving some spaces in between so we have that nice contrast. And then tapping and softening at the base, adding some gentle little ripples in the water for movement where that waterfall is dropping into. Add a little bit more white to the tops of these trees, maybe add a little one back there. A little bit more white on that third one there in the back, and then coming in here and there with another layer of white. So this just shows you that during the painting process you need to go back. You don't always get it the first time. You need to go back and add more layers to build up your light and dark. And I just wanted to paint a different type of a tree over here on the right, more of like a willow tree or a birch tree. So just with my liner brush, white paint, very thin tree trunk, thin branches, and light little taps with a fan brush with a bit of white on there. So nothing too big or too detailed. And right over here where I was going to have that little portal, I decided to tap over with blue with my fan brush, or Filbert brush, sorry, and then light little taps of white. I'm going to add to my little sun rays now. A little bit of white again, just pulling and flicking. Now you can see how they're very skinny and narrow from the sun, and then as they get further out towards the outside of the canvas, they're wider. So this painting is all done. I'm really happy that I got to share this with you today, and I hope you guys enjoy watching this. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time in a new video. Bye!